Hi guys, I'm CJ. This is Wilder Hope Adventures, where we want to help you find, create, and live your own adventure story. Hopefully you guys just got done watching the Downslink a couple of videos that I did in December and January. So I just kind of wanted to go over a few thoughts on how I think the Downslink can be hiked, should be hiked, depending on what you want out of it. So the Downslink is a 37.5 mile trail that goes from Shoreham on the south coast of England to Guildford, and it mostly follows the old rail bed of the Steyning and Line. Not much left of the actual, well, there's nothing left of the actual train tracks, but it does go through a few stations, and so there's a little bit of history there, which makes it very interesting. But anyway, there's several different ways you can hike this trail, and I just sort of wanted to touch base on, get into a couple of what I think those are. So firstly, you could do it in short sections. You know, there are parking areas along each a lot of access points. You can do short out and backs, or you, depending on where you're at, you know, in the northern section, the trail pretty much follows the route of the 63 bus. So if you wanted to start near Christ Hospital or Horsham and hike a 10-mile section, walk off trail, get the 63 bus back to where you started, or vice versa. The second way that you can approach this, and this is something that I think was on my mind while I was hiking it, is how good of a first-time backpacking trail the Downslink would be. Being 37 miles, it would be a great 3-day, long weekend hike for people who have never done a backpacking trail. It's got good ingress and egress points, it's got some good supply options, there's pubs on routes, easy access to campsites along routes, it's flat, it's not too strenuous, and it can be done almost year round. So I would suggest that if you are looking for, if you've never been backpacking before and you're looking for something to do the first time in the southeast, this would be a really, really good one to start, because it's short, and you'd actually feel like you've accomplished something with it if you can only do 3 days. So to go along with the backpacking idea, the other option to do is to also tag this onto doing part of the North Downsway and reconnecting or connecting with the Thames Downlink path, which, if you go from, would take you from the North Downsway at St Martha's Church all the way along to Box Hill, and then you can turn north and go up to the Thames. I think this would be a brilliant option. I'm not quite sure whether this video is coming out before or after I do that last section, but we'll have a look at that at some point. So that's another option, is to make it slightly longer by about 2 more days. So you could do over a 5-day period and hike from Thames down to Shoreham or vice versa. And then the last way that you could really do this hike is, because of the length of it, is as a charity event. If you were wanting to raise money for charity, do the miles, this would be one of those great trails, because it's easy, because it's flat, there's no challenges to speak of, if you really wanted to get those miles in. So if you were raising money, yeah, so anyway, I think this is a good trail to do that with. It won't exhaust you in the same way some of these other walks would do, and you'd be avoiding the traffic, which is always nice. So another thing about the Downslink is it is a great all-weather, all-season trail. For the most part, in the winter, it's going to have a little bit of mud, but it's very gravelled most of the way through. And you will get better views in the winter because there's no leaves on the trees. It does look a little bit dead, but in general it's going to have better views because you can see past the Green Tunnel. So that is one benefit of hiking in winter, until you get right to the end at Box Hill, or not Box Hill, but up to St Martha's Church, where it does get quite muddy to get up there. However, the trail is beautiful in summer. Or spring. Spring is actually a really great time with all the flowers. But because it doesn't have the views in a lot of it, I would suggest carrying a flora and fauna book and making it an exciting scavenger hunt type trail. Look for what's out there. Look for the plants. Look for the robins. Look for the wildlife that you would see as you go along the trail. So that's my thoughts about kind of when you should hike it. So one amazing thing I love about this trail is how accessible it is to those with physical limitations. A good portion of this trail is accessible to those with wheelchairs or what do you call those things? Frames. You know, it would be very difficult to do with a frame, but if you had, you know, crutches or you needed a walking stick, you're not going to trip over, but, you know, the accessibility for buggies, for wheelchairs of any kind, just really makes this a trail that you can get out to and do as a person who struggles with that. You know, again, if you are a bigger person and struggle with uphills, downhills, and are wanting to lose weight or just be out there, this is another good trail because it's not going to cause you discomfort and pain. You can do as much or as little as you want to, you know, maintain your health. So I think that's one of the best parts about this trail, is just how accessible it is to everyone. But going along with that, if you do decide to do most of it as a wheelchair user, there is one place that you would have to divert. You wouldn't be able to complete the entire length of the trail at the bridge, the Trapper Bridge. Not a Trapper Bridge. I'll put the link, whatever it was, down below. The trail diverts away from the rail bed and goes up onto the North Downs. Now the path continues alongside the Riverway, and continues on to Guildford and the train station, which is the way you would need to continue going. But that actually takes you a slightly shorter route, and it's actually probably potentially slightly prettier, so makes it completely accessible. And next, you know, it goes along with the physical accessibility of this trail. It's great for all ages. You know, you can take, as I said before, you can take buggies, anything that has young children in it. It's easy for young kids to walk. It's safe. It's mostly fenced both sides, and there is only one livestock field on the entire trail. And every time I've walked through it, I know it was empty. I do know there have been livestock in it, just due to the evidence left behind. But generally, I've never seen livestock in it. So yeah, it does make it a very safe trail to do. If you have a fear of cows, it's great for dogs, but remember, it is a bridleway as well, so there are horses and cyclists. I've unfortunately seen dogs almost get run over because they weren't under control, and a cyclist almost went over the top of them, so just bear that in mind. But yeah, no, it's a very accessible, family-friendly trail that will get your kids hopefully interested in the outdoors, and that goes along with that book. You know, getting a book or getting one of those wildlife cards and helping your kids hunt down all these different species and get them interested in going outside. So the last group of people that this trail is ideal for is if you're interested in history and you like trains. Now, obviously, there aren't trains still going along this trail at any time. There are a couple of carriages at West Grinstead, which are kind of interesting to check out when the museum's open. But it's really interesting to see some of the train stations along the way, to read about the history of the line and how it affected people in the area, why it got axed. But yeah, it's definitely an important part of our history here in West Sussex. So anyway, guys, that was kind of my thoughts on how, who, when you should hike the Downslink. It's definitely worth your time. Yeah, so I really hope you guys appreciate this, and as always, thanks for watching.